I heard Jordan say something, I think many years ago now, which is very insightful and that I think about often, which is that when you are in a marriage and you decide that you are not going to get divorced, that's not an option, that you're absolutely committed to the marriage, it changes the quality of it because it means that whenever you have some kind of dispute, bailing isn't an option. The only option is to find some way of reconciling the dispute, and that's a fundamentally different way of living with this other person than if you know that
Yes.
you have a fire exit,
Hmm.
at any moment.
Yes, that's for sure. I lived with a man before I got married, and I might have lived with Jordan for a couple of months before I got married with him. I didn't live with him very long, and every everything changed once we got married. Actually, all the ideas that had been in my parents' marriage came up. All the ideas of who was going to cook and who was going to clean, all of that came up because there were those questions in my childhood home and they were never answered. They were never discussed, never negotiated. And so I never ever saw any resolution to those fundamental questions. So then I had those fundamental questions when we were first married, and when we were living together, they didn't come up. But once we were married, up they came. When we entertained, who was going to cook and who was going to clean, that came up. And so I had to learn. I had to learn. I didn't know anything about hospitality when we got married. I had to learn about hospitality. My mother was she was shy of having people over, and so we had family over, but not often did they have friends over. At least not when I was up. Maybe when I was sleeping, because I was a child. Maybe after 8 they would have people over. So I didn't see hospitality, and so it wasn't, the like you said, going to Sunday school is such a good beginning because it gets right into your bones. And so I don't feel I had that same learning on hospitality. And hospitality is so necessary. It's so uh, important. Community, hospitality to community is so important. We can't do anything on our own. We need each other. And so to understand that how fundamental hospitality is a really important thing for children to understand.
Thinking about this division of chores question, one of the advantages of a very traditional marriage, which has its disadvantages too, but one of the advantages is that many of these questions are decided in advance. There are things will still come up, but in general, who earns the money, who does the cooking, who does XYZ. Most of these tasks will have a gendered answer. And it does mean that you don't have to have that argument about every single thing. Whereas one of the things that more modern domestic setups have is that you do have to do that minute negotiation, and sometimes doing that can strengthen the relationship, and some people are good at doing that and you can learn to be better at it, but it's difficult and it's a skill. And I do think that it probably I do think that not having I suspect that non-traditional relationships probably elicit more arguments for that reason.
Yeah, I agree with you. We had a pretty modern secular home, and we negotiated everything, really everything. And I think it would have been helpful. It definitely would have been helpful to me to have some understanding of my responsibility within the home as the wife. I don't think it's really healthy for people to have so many questions that they don't even know the most fundamental details of a husband and wife and what it means to serve each other. So it was hard won Some of our arguments when we were first married that first year, sometimes they would go on for days before we found resolution. So it was it was hard fought, the understanding that we had together. And it's funny now because I'll go visit my daughter and her husband, and they have a modern house, but they have a religious foundation, and I can see the customs of the religion, the foundational organization of each day. I can see when there's a push back by, say, my daughter, and then her husband will push back the other way. It's like, no, actually, it's going to be this way, because this way is logical and it's respectful, and so it's going to be this way. And I like that. I think that it's at least then you have something that you can gauge your understanding by. If there are those rules, you can talk about them and you can negotiate about them, but at least they're there. At least they're there as a guiding light for you to understand what it is that's worked in the past.
Yeah, like you have a template, and even if you rewrite on it, you can you have something to start with.
Yes.
I suspect that a big part of the reason that a lot of modern women feel very dissatisfied with domestic labour divisions. I'm sure that our great grandmothers also felt dissatisfied and had their own complaints of various kinds, but it's so common to hear modern women complaining about who does the vacuuming and who does the childcare and whatever. I wonder if it's because women have, in the traditional setup, there is a kind of complementarity. Everyone ends up having roughly the same amount, carrying burdens of roughly the same weight, and having responsibilities that take up roughly the same amount of time, and developing skills that complement one another. Like the feminine skills and the masculine skills, they're a bit different, but they work, together they create the household. And one of the features of the last 50 years or so, in terms of how gender roles have changed, is that women have taken on more of the masculine roles, particularly when it comes to earning money. And men have not taken on as many of the feminine roles. I mean, men do now more childcare than they used to, and clean and cook more than they used to generally. But I think they haven't moved as much, whereas the women have moved quite a lot. And so there's that feeling of imbalance. And I suspect that that's probably the root of a lot of arguing in modern households.
Well, a lot of the chores that a woman had in the home have now modern conveniences, the washing machine.
Yeah.
We had a wringer washer when I was little. That took a lot more work. It was kind of fun to wring out your own clothes with the wringer, but it was kind of dangerous too. You get your hands caught in it, so it was tricky. And there's a dishwasher. We used to have, after dinner, all the women would be in the kitchen washing dishes. Actually, I think that's what I remember. And so even if a man was going to come in and do the chores of a wife, it doesn't take him long to do the work anymore. It doesn't really take a woman long to do the work anymore. And so children haven't really changed. So they're still taking care of children. But I would say that's about the only thing that's left. And also, how many people have a dining room table now? How many people sit down and eat together? We always ate together. Morning, noon, and night, we ate together. And the dining room table is what I remember from my childhood, exactly where I sat and where my siblings sat, where my dad and mom sat. I have that in my memory, and it happened every day, multiple times a day. So it's the thing that I remember now that I'm older. I don't know actually what you would remember now if you don't have those daily rituals, the daily prayer. I mean, certainly that would be remembered, but even just sitting down to dinner together, that would be another memory to have. I think What would you remember now? I don't even know if people watch TV together anymore. We used to watch some TV, the sitcoms and the sports channel and things like that when we were kids. I don't know if any of that is left anymore. So a lot of the rituals that we used to have in the home and that women were uh, a major part of are gone. So I wonder if some of the navigation that women have made away from the feminine home life into the male world is that men's lives have they gotten easier? There's high tech jobs, so they're not getting maybe they're not in life threatening professions as much as they used to, but they're definitely still life threatening positions that men are involved in and that women would like to be involved in and probably are sometimes as well. But so, we don't know what brought up, the birth control pill, obviously, because then a woman a woman or is a woman a man? So is there any difference between a gay relationship and a straight relationship then, if neither of you have to have any kids? I don't see that there's that much difference. So we've confused the roles. And obviously you can tell because now people are very confused. They don't even know if they're a man or a woman. And they don't know whether they should have babies or kill babies. So they don't, right? It's so confused. It's so confused. And so these conversations, if people are listening to these conversations, you know, that's where the Bible is really important. It tells you your morals. It gives you a plan on how to structure your day. And so much of the structure of the day has changed now that we don't have any guiding lights except, historically the people, they had the Bible and they had their morning prayers, and their morning prayers would have been partly their faith in God and love thy neighbor. They would have been those two things, and it would have been on their mind when they walked out the door. What are people thinking about when they leave in the morning now? They're thinking about whether they're going to be late. Really, that's probably what they're thinking. How bad is traffic going to be? And when I get to work, I have to have a meeting with someone, and what's that going to be like? So there's a lot of preoccupation now, and not a lot of place for gratitude for the day, gratitude for waking up in the morning, gratitude for having these people in your life. If you have people in your home, then gratitude for that. By the time you leave the house, if you're thinking about gratitude, you have gratitude for the person that you meet on the street. And I don't see that anymore. And it's been, so I've lived in this neighborhood for over 20 years, and I was home in May for a couple of days. I'm always only home for a couple of days. And I had to get something from the corners, the store that's not far away. So I walked down my street and out of my neighborhood, and no one looked at me, not even the kids. No one even said hello. And I thought, oh my goodness, like what has happened? People are so separate, isolated and separate. It's very spooky. And all I wanted to do was say hi to somebody. And usually it's pretty easy. You smile at people on the street, and some of them look at you like you may be crazy. And some of people smile back and say, yeah, I get it. You want to say hello. But I didn't see any of that, none of it. And it was surprising. I was watching, and I saw plenty of people, and none of them looked at me or acknowledged that I was on the street right beside them. Yeah, it was very, very strange. So what we went through in that pandemic has also been a force of separation.